On Wednesdays, Wales at 6. The University Challenge union leaders say higher education's on the brink of collapse. So where does that leave students?
We've been all right, but it's very up in the air as to how things will look.
It has definitely given a bad impression about the way the university is heading to.
I think for other people who are in second or first year right now, there's a lot of worry.
Also tonight, Insulin helps Dee manage her diabetes and live life to the full, but she says a shortage of the drug has left her vulnerable. Plus, homes evacuated and lives in turmoil, memories of the catastrophic Tywyn floods from those who witnessed the devastation. And
join me at Pedal Power in Cardiff for a very special UK-wide relay promoting sporting opportunities for everyone.
Hello, good evening to you. Our universities here in Wales are in crisis and facing collapse, a warning from unions representing higher education workers. The warning follows a series of job losses and course closures that have been announced in recent months, and it came as politicians in both parliaments took a closer look at the problems. Our political editor Adrian Masters is in one of those parliaments, the Senedd, tonight. Good evening, Adrian. Just how bleak was the picture that was painted today?
Andrea, the people that I've been watching and listening to today have described a perfect storm, with universities facing shortfalls of tens of millions of pounds, leading to job losses and cuts that are causing worries and concern for those who work for them, and uncertainty for students. No wonder they're calling it a crisis. A couple of weeks ago, it was staff at Bangor University who were protesting. A few months before that, those working at Cardiff University took over the steps of the Senedd to make their voices heard. Job losses and course closures are causing huge worries for staff and students. Today it was the focus of politicians at both ends of the M4 who quizzed unions and university bosses. In Cardiff, students told us about their concerns.
We've been on placements, we've been working this year, but speaking to people who just actually work within Cardiff University, even they're nervous. They don't know exactly.
My friends in like the arts or English or Welsh departments, I think they're quite concerned.
I think it has definitely given a bad impression about the way the university is heading to, and I think it's giving a bit of lack of security. Is that a good university to pursue, and what is the future like ahead?
You kind of want some clarity on what you're going to do for your future, and if they, like this all the time, it's like, well, if I'd rather not take the risk,
Which is exactly what one union rep warned members of the Sened's Children and Young People Committee.
I've had students approach me and said, should they go to Cardiff? I said, yes, because they've got fantastic staff and fantastic courses. The danger is, if you're not careful, this could have a real detrimental effect on students who don't want to go there.
Outside, there was an even starker warning.
My worry is we're going to see a real reduction in capacity and more job losses, perhaps even the collapse of certain universities. We know that the regulator has said they don't think there's risk of that in the short to medium term, but we have real concerns in the medium to long term.
Then it was the turn of those in charge, the Vice-Chancellors. In Westminster, MPs asked them if there'd been a failure of leadership.
Nobody expected to take an institution through COVID. Nobody expected double-digit inflation afterwards. Nobody expected policy change of the extent to which we've seen. The same government had an international strategy to increase student recruitment internationally to 600,000. And then you have a policy change, which leads to a £22 million reduction for us in 1 year.
We are making tough decisions, Lampeter, but it's for a purpose. It's to ensure future resilience and sustainability. The knighthood narrative, if you like, will still be here. But we're going through a period of change, and change is painful, but it's for a purpose, and that's very much how I see it.
It's not how everyone sees it. The protests and uncertainty look likely to continue.
Well, Adrian, lots of discussion and debate, but if there is change, what will that change look like for universities?
Well, it is going to be a time of upheaval and transformation, and that's not going to be easy for anybody. The Vice-Chancellors went on in the session that you saw in my report there to say that they think that the cuts that they're and the changes that they're making now will stabilise the situation. but it won't deal with the problem because, well, just look at some of the things that they're dealing with. A past reliance really on the tuition fees that are too much for students and too little for universities. A reliance too on international students that now they are not allowed by government to accept. There are fewer students anyway, and just the cost of things, inflation that we're all experiencing. It's no wonder that it's a perfect storm, and it's no wonder that some are saying that universities, if they're going to last another decades and centuries, will have to change, and change radically.
Adrian Masters with that analysis. Thank you. A programme that helps people with care and support needs to live independently has been extended through to March 2027. The Welsh Government has set aside £60 million for the Housing with Care Fund, which will see projects like the Flowers in Merthyr Tydfil provide more accommodation for those in need, including young people.
Returning children to Merthyr will allow us to meet their need, allow them to integrate into the community and allow them to promote their independence. So, you know, they attending schools in Merthyr, attending college in Merthyr, and further down the line working in Merthyr, isn't it? So the economic projection there is really, really positive for us also.
Next tonight, the full reopening of Wales's busiest port has been delayed. A berth at Holyhead's Terminal 3 was badly damaged by Storm Dara in December, and the port's operators, Stena Line, say despite their best efforts, the terminal will now not reopen as planned on the 1st of July. Well, Rob Osborne joins me in the studio now. This has been an ongoing story, another setback for supply chains across the UK.
Yeah, it is, and it was around the Christmas holidays when this storm happened, and it caused huge damage. And we'll be talking about it almost 6 months later. Holyhead, don't forget, is one of the busiest ports, not just in Wales, it's one of the busiest ports in the UK. So it has had a huge impact on passengers and trade between the mainland and Ireland. So they have tried to get things going. They've slowly, bit by bit, got things back up and running. But the biggest piece of the jigsaw is Terminal 3, and a lot of the repairs needed for that have been underwater, so we've clearly got to rely on the weather being in the right, well, I was going to say right frame of mind, but weather doesn't have mind, does it?
We know what it's going to do.
Yes, we know what it's going to do, and that's part of the problem. So today we hear that the plan to reopen it fully, which was supposed to be on the 1st of July, has now been missed, and it'll now reopen, the word is expected to reopen fully on the 15th of July.
So that's what we're expecting. Is there a timeline in place as we look ahead for this?
Well, that's what some people are asking. I'll tell you what some people are saying, though. And Stena Line, which owns and operates the port, has clearly said it's sorry to customers because they have made plans and they say they want to return to a full schedule. Well, that won't be happening in a few days now. Reaction also from Rhynap Iorwerth asking about that timeline. Of course, he is the leader of Plaid Cymru, but he's also the local member for the Senedd up in Ynys Môn. And he says he wants reassurances from the port owner that Terminal 3 will open no later than July the 15th. I guess we'll find out in less than a month.
We will be talking about this again. Rob, thank you. Diabetes patients in Wales are concerned that a national shortage of insulin could have a serious impact on their health. Theatre student Dee Parker is one of 16,000 people in Wales who have type 1 diabetes. She says she's been struggling to get the medication that she needs to live. Gwenanne Campbell has been to meet Dee to find out more.
Dancing through the struggles. Dee Parker is a musical theatre student in Cardiff. She's been living with type 1 diabetes since she was 16 years old. But over the last few months, she's found it difficult getting hold of the drug that's keeping her alive.
Last month, I had to go 2 days without my normal insulin. I'd go to the chemist, they won't have it there. You'd go to the surgery and they wouldn't know anything. You go to your diabetic nurses and they're trying their best to try and get your insulin and there's just nothing. And it's just like a constant fear and worry that every month am I going to get my insulin on time? I don't know.
Dee currently uses the Novo Rapid insulin pump, but due to supply shortages, she might have to go back to using injections, something that's worrying her.
I didn't like them. I had to inject myself about 10 times a day. That's why I went on the pump. With the injection, I had to do the carb counting. I had to do this. Like, I had to do everything, where the pump does everything for me. And with the technology we have now, we shouldn't be going back on them.
The Welsh Government say they're aware of the supply disruption, which is expected to continue until 2027. But they argue that alternative preparations are available. But for people like Dee, it's unwanted stress.
It makes me feel worried, stressed. It makes me feel like I'm being neglected from the system. Like my pancreas don't work. And the only thing that's keeping me alive is this pump that's on my body. And if I don't have insulin, I will die.
But she isn't alone. And with record numbers of medicines getting harder or even impossible to obtain, pharmacies are under the pump.
We do have medicines that come in and out of supply, and it can be due to a number of reasons. It can be manufacturing problems with the medicines, it can be due to problems sourcing raw ingredients, even things like global events which can affect the supply chains. For patients, the main thing is to speak to your pharmacist or speak to your prescriber and discuss some of the alternatives that can be available.
But it's clear that not everyone is singing from the same hymn book. And it's people like Dee who have been left to face the music. Gwennon Campbell, ITV News.
Now do stay with us this Wednesday evening. Plenty more still to come tonight. Let's go to Carol, who looks like she might be about to get on her bike. Carol.
Yes, Andrea, I'll be finding out how a pedal-powered relay is creating sporting chances for everyone.
And a day of two halves tomorrow. After a wet start, expect a much sunnier afternoon. I'll have your latest forecast.
Carol and Nick to come. But first, rugby legend Gerald Davis can now add Sir to his name after he received a knighthood at Windsor Castle today. At 80 years old, his services to rugby union as well as his charitable work were recognised. The Grand Slam triple winner played for Wales in the 60s and 70s, as well as the British and Irish Lions, as Richard Morgan reports.
On the rugby field, few could stop Gerald Davis, one of Welsh rugby's leading lights during the great days of the 1970s. Today, he was recognised for those exploits, knighted by the Prince of Wales at Windsor Castle, joining a small and select list of Welsh sporting sirs.
It's wonderful to think that someone somewhere thought that I was worthy of an honour, and I'm very grateful for those people who gave that support, and it's a great honour to be knighted in this way.
A former British Lion, Sir Gerald was also honoured for his charity work and his role as a rugby figurehead, serving as the WRU's president, during which time he watched many matches with the heir to the throne.
There were several moments when we shared seats with each other at rugby matches, and it was a great pleasure to sit next to him. But not only that he loves the sport, he loves rugby, and not only that either, he understands it and he knows the game. So it is always a pleasure to be in his company, to have some fun and to discuss the tiny details of what is going on in front of us.
What Wales rugby fans would give for a player with this talent today. But in the Lions' summer, it seems fitting that one of the greats of the game should have his moment in the limelight. Richard Morgan, ITV News.
Congratulations to Gerald there. Well, as one sporting legend reflects on his lifetime of achievements, the Cymru squad are waiting nervously in the wings for their moment to make it into the history books. So with just over a week to go until Rhian Wilkinson's squad make their first ever appearance in a major tournament, Megan Boot has been to meet some of those who've been instrumental in the rise of women's football in Wales.
In the stands, 4 women who have played their part in changing football. In the back row, internationals Karen Jones and Michelle Adams. And to the front, Wales's first Muslim female football referees, Roisin and Elisa Khan.
So you've all got this love of football from a young age. When did you realise if something needed to change with this game that you love?
Oh, it's strange really, because looking back, obviously it always needed to change because there was a ban, as we all know, on women's football. And it wasn't really, I guess, until I was in my teens and playing for a women's team that you start realising that lots of girls and women didn't have the opportunity because of the ban.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, we didn't know anything different. Whatever we had to do, we just went out and done it. If you needed to get equipment, you had to do fundraising for it. If you needed to use a pitch, you knocked on people's doors to make sure you had a pitch. We didn't know anything different.
What's it like being the change that you want to see? Being the first, how does that feel?
I think, in all honesty, it's not the easiest thing, you know. It can be kind of glamorized in the title, but, you know, it's being the first is about having those uncomfortable conversations with people about why women's sport, but particularly Muslim women's sport, might be a bit different, and it's kind of different, like navigating it. Like, for example, I think one of the first times we refereed as part of like the FAW's referee diversity program, they provided us with a free refereeing kit, and obviously that came with shorts, which obviously as part of our modesty we don't wear. So it's kind of about having those uncomfortable conversations and sort of sending those awkward emails of, I'm sorry, can I wear something else, and things like that. And so I think that's what the reality of being the first is. But, you know, I'm privileged enough to be in this situation, and I think it's something that I champion rather than kind of shying away from. And I know I'm the first, and I champion that to make sure I'm not the last.
In the women's game, we shouldn't need to follow what the guys have done before us. You know, we've got a complete, blank canvas to promote the game as we see fit. And one of the good things we've done, and right throughout the women's game, is you can touch them, you can feel them, they come down, they sign autographs, they ruffle hair, they very much into schools and that type of stuff. So it's, come on, we must remember that.
But we must keep banging the drum.
There's still a long way to go.
There's still a long way to go.
Megan Boot there talking to some of football's change makers, and you can see the rest of that interview in full on ITVX. Well, in more Euros news, the FAW released the official anthem for the tournament today. Let's take a listen. It's rousing, isn't it? Well, the song named Never Gonna Break Her is performed by The Voice UK finalist Liz Jones. It's written by Grammy-winning singer-songwriter Amy Wadge. She says it's the privilege of her career to be asked to create the anthem, which she hopes will help inspire future generations of footballers.
To be asked to write the song for the Welsh football team is a massive, massive honour to me. And obviously as a woman, it's really important to write an anthem for women, but particularly, to be associated with, with Wales, it means everything to me. And it was, just an absolute honour to be asked to do it.
Amy there. Well, time now for a reminder of our top story. And higher education bosses say some universities could be on the brink of collapse. The warning follows a series of job losses and course closures that have been announced in recent months. Today, politicians were warned that some institutions risk being brought to their knees. There's plenty more still ahead after this programme.
Coming up on tonight's ITV Evening News, a man is found guilty of murdering 14-year-old Daniel Angerin during a samurai sword rampage in Hainault last year. ITV News uncovers a startling rise of ketamine addiction amongst children as young as 12. And Arise Sir Gareth, the former England boss, gets a knighthood. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Plenty of honours news today. Lucrezia with you shortly. Next tonight here, as ITV celebrates 70 years of broadcasting, we've been taking a look at some of Wales's major stories over the past 7 decades. Tonight we head back to a stormy February morning in 1990 when seawater swept down the streets of Tywyn in Conway, leaving devastation in its wake. Ian Lang has been to meet those who were there when that disastrous flood hit.
Help as we can. We've got a lot of people trapped in houses down here.
The morning of February the 26th, 1990, and the North Wales community is underwater. A stretch of the sea wall at Tywyn has been smashed to pieces by huge waves, driven by 90-mile-an-hour winds. Freezing seawater swept down streets, with the local population completely unprepared for the unfolding disaster. They could only watch in shock and horror as water surged into their homes, destroying possessions and turning their lives upside down. Retired press photographer Phil Mishew, who was there when the war broke, and Barry Griffiths, whose home was flooded, have vivid memories.
You could feel something ominous in the air, the power of the sea.
I mean, the sea was just mounding up like a huge wave ready to come over the wall. The wall looked like a curbstone compared to the size of the waves. Amazing and frightening at the same time. There was one moment when I was hanging onto a lamppost to stop the waves washing me away.
Where it really came home is in our streets, when all the homes have bins full of possessions. I believe it was the largest evacuation in peacetime UK, and you saw it afterwards in the aftermath. The flood lasted a couple of days, the aftermath lasted for ages. In fact, we're in it now to a degree because it was the curtain raiser for climate change, and we still don't realise what that means in the longer term.
The disaster struck well before the days of social media and the internet, but news of the event went round the world. And for months afterwards, the plight of flood victims attracted huge media attention, and there was talk of compensation and the need for stronger sea defences.
I don't think at the time we realised just how big it was going to be. You know, the people, important people who came down to see it, you know.
Well, Princess Di was a regular.
That's right, yeah. I mean, it captured the imagination of globally, you know, and now you look at it and it seems so far away in time, and yet the memories will always be there.
Ian Lang, ITV News, Tywyn.
Now, a UK-wide relay involving thousands of people has been making its way through Wales today on its fourth day in the country. The mission behind the mass event is to improve inclusivity in sport, with 3 out of 4 disabled children currently left sitting on the sidelines when it comes to physical activity. Well, Carol Green is in Cardiff for us tonight to catch up with the relay. And Carol, as we can see by the crowd gathered behind you, it is not just running in this relay, is it?
Absolutely not, Andrea. The baton has arrived in Cardiff, and this leg is about cycling, but other sports are being included, from running, surfing and rugby, and it's all about giving sporting opportunities to those groups who've traditionally in the past often missed out. Now, Cara Jane, actor, you're used to the limelight, but why is this relay important to you?
I've been an ambassador for Cerebral for a number of years, and this is probably the biggest event I've been involved in so far. It's just amazing that a charity based in Wales can be so big on a national level and help so many people.
And was there anything like this when you were growing up? What does it mean to young people?
It's great for young people. I wish there was something like this when I was younger. I think it's great because everyone can get involved no matter what your age or ability. So I think it's fantastic.
Brilliant, thank you, Cara. Well, Jess, you're chief exec of that charity which has organised this. Things improving, as Cara said, from when she was little, but more to do.
Absolutely. Things are improving hugely. We've been having some amazing moments on this relay, from surfing to rugby, as you mentioned. We're doing all sorts of sports, ice hockey, everything that is inclusive and enabling children to take part with their friends, not in separate groups. And that's what this is all about, is raising that message of inclusion across the UK.
But briefly, though, it's really important, isn't it, when we hear those figures of children with disabilities missing out so much on sport?
Absolutely. We're here for the 500,000 children in the UK who have a brain condition, who often are those who are most excluded from sport. And we really want to make sure that, you know, whatever they want to do, whether that's surfing, whether that's whitewater rafting, whether that's just going on their bike with their friends, that they have a bit of equipment that can help them to do it.
Well, there's certainly a shift been put in here today, but there are more miles to do. You've all got to get to Newport tonight, so get that baton moving, and good luck, pob luck, on the next leg of this journey. Well done, everyone. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
There they go, setting off on that relay, and lots of enthusiasm as they go to Newport. Well, it was a drizzly start today, wasn't it? Will it be good weather for the rest of that? Here's Nick Miller.
Outbreaks of ancient sites,
will gradually settle into an evening of pizza plates al fresco. TUI sponsors ITV Cymru Wales weather.
Hello. Not a huge amount of sunshine today. The best of it has been across the north. There's not a huge amount for the rest of the week and into the weekend as well, though it will be often dry after tomorrow morning when we see some rain across the country. On the humid side, after briefly fresher tomorrow, and feeling quite warm, though particularly if you get to see any sunny spells. This is the big picture. Got a weak weather front moving through tomorrow, but it will bring some rain. And beyond that, high pressure trying to nudge into the south. Low pressure mostly missing us to the north, but a few weather fronts will clip mainly the northwest of the country. So this is where the chance of seeing some outbreaks of rain will continue into the weekend, whereas the further south you are more likely to stay dry with the best of any limited sunny spells. It's a cloudy night to come, lowering cloud into the hills, perhaps damp and drizzly in places, humidity starting to pick up again, so quite a warm and clammy night to come at around 15 to 17 degrees. With that weather front moving in for tomorrow morning, so it will be a breezier story to start the day. Some outbreaks of rain, then notice the difference though, mid to late morning onwards, clearing out, plenty of sunshine arriving, a bright and breezy afternoon to come. It'll feel cooler and briefly fresher tomorrow at around 17 to 21 degrees in Abergavenny. And here's the story going into Friday. Again, we've got high pressure trying to nudge in from the south. An area of low pressure largely missing us the north, may just clip the northwest of the country towards Anglesey, Gwynedd, for example, getting some outbreaks of rain, whereas the most rest of us will stay dry. And here's your outlook. A lot of dry weather in the forecast. Notice a lot of cloud. Towards the end of the weekend, into the start of next week, it looks to be turning a bit warmer, but sunnier too.
TUI sponsors ITV Cymru Wales weather. Making the most of summer. Piri sponsors ITV pollen count.
Some better news if you're allergic to grass pollen. These are the levels at the moment, so we're high for tomorrow. It does look as if they'll be easing off to low by the time we get into the weekend. That's it. Enjoy your evening.
Thanks to Nick, and that's it from all of us for this evening. Richard Morgan will be back with your late update. That's coming up after the news at 10. For now, though, thanks for watching. Bye.